Okay, hi again, everyone. Um, so welcome back to another online lecture, and this is really just the same as we did on day one. I've got my notes file that you can see on the screen, and I'm just going to talk you through that. Go into Google Classroom, show you how to do the assignments, um, and things for today. Okay. So I'm doing this. It's Wednesday morning, Wednesday the 4th. I'm doing this for all my classes. Let's just grab my highlighting tool. Um, I'm doing this for all my classes. I have Wednesday and Thursday classes, but you do the same things. So I'm going to use Wednesday as all my examples. Thursday people, you might have slightly different deadlines and things, and your Google Classroom might look slightly different, but it's all basically the same. Okay. So things we're trying to do today, particularly, I want to go back through those questions and talk about rhetoric and grammar and process very quickly. And then you're going to start your writing from today. So you were reading about the overall project and the introspective essay for homework, I think. We're going to go through those. We're going to go through something called facts and inferences, which is a kind of basic writing principle that I'd like to introduce for today. And then we're going to, try and get some ideas for our introspective essays by doing something called free writing. That's basically it. And then I'm going to talk you through the assignments for the day. That'll be it. Okay. So a quick review of day one, either Monday or Tuesday, depending on your class. Well done for all your work on Tuesday. I realize it, like I said last time, it's a tough situation to be in with online learning, but I think most of you got it pretty fine. I'm still very keen to have feedback, and don't forget, you can do Google Hangouts if you feel like you need kind of help. If you've just got one question that you think I can answer easily, feel free to send me an email. But if you think you might need to talk about something, I did say I enabled Google Hangouts, and that's for chat help. Let me just open an email. I'm just going to pause it here and show you how that works. Okay, so here's my email inbox. Please don't look too closely at what's going on in here. I can't get my highlighting tool to work in this one. But you can see down in the very bottom left, there's my name with a green button next to it. And if I click this plus, if you start typing my name in there, I should come up on it. Okay. So if you need to kind of chat to me, please feel free to do that through there. There's also a mobile app for Apple and Google, which you can download too. I'm quite happy for you to chat to me through that, and also it has a video function. So if we really need it, we can organize a video call, and I can kind of help you through there. Okay. But yeah, overall, I felt like day one went pretty well, and I hope today does as well. Today is a little bit more lecture-based than day one, because it tends to be a little bit that way at the beginning of the course. I have more stuff to tell you. And the first thing I want to it's a very informal lecture, but you had those questions that you were discussing last time in class. And I thought I would share some of my thoughts on them. So the first question was this sort of, how much do you agree with every essay needs a hook, a thesis, and 5 paragraphs? And my answer, honestly, is absolutely not. This is no essay needs these things because, to make it an essay. So I'm not saying here, but please don't misunderstand. And I'm not saying that, you should not have a hook, you should not have a thesis, and you should never have 5 paragraphs. Not at all. Sometimes these things can be useful, and particularly when one of the things in your portfolio thing is that Stony Brook asks for at least some thesis-driven writing. So they are surely important, but I thought someone made a very good point that these are heavily linked to kind of exam-style teaching, right? If you've taken something like the TOEFL, where obviously if you're writing a time-limited exam, you can't spend very much time you can't be relied on to think, you can't be relied on to go away and read. They're really just testing structure and English and your ability to kind of put, reasonable thoughts together. But that's not what we do at university. So much of university, I think, is much more exploratory. You have weeks to write your project, or even more, right? So I think the reason that I say absolutely not is it's the wrong way to think about it. It's writing is not a formula. It doesn't. You shouldn't have a hook, a thesis, and 5 paragraphs because you think you need them, right? You should have them because it helps you to do something. And one of the big things I want to say is proper writing, and maybe not exam style writing, but proper writing is a social practice. It's something that's done between people to have effects on people, right? And it is in some way a sort of conversation, and every conversation you have with different people is different, and you do different things in those conversations for good reasons, right? You don't come to every conversation with your friends or with your professors with a formula for how to do it. Okay. So to say a bit more then specifically about hook, thesis, 5 paragraphs, when talking about your hooks, lots of people were saying, "Oh, you need to grab the reader's attention so that they actually read your essay and don't just ignore it." But how often especially in an academic essay, how often do you actually need to make the audience read on in your essay? If you think about the essays you submit for writing class, you're not trying to drag the reader into your essay and make them want to read on, because if you think of your audience, it's a professor, right? It's your writing teacher. They're going to read your essay anyway. Okay, so at that point, your hook is not designed to get them to read on. What your hook might be doing, what you might want to do at the start of the essay, is sort of maybe mark your essay out. If you think of, and I will tell you as a writing teacher, if someone's on the 20th essay that they've read that day and they're kind of tired, if it's a very boring standard beginning, that, it's not really going to inspire them. But if you can kind of mark your essay out as something different, or just be funny or something, it might just cheer your reader up. But you kind of got to think of what you're doing, and you've also got to think of your purpose there. If you're writing a very serious essay, I don't know, you're writing about some kind of sexual discrimination or something, which it's a very serious and sincere essay. You also don't want a funny, clever hook, because it won't fit the tone of your essay. So my suggestion is not all essays need a hook, and often in trying to have a hook, like trying to have a single sentence hook that's really clever and grabs attention, you sometimes have the opposite effect. So definitely you want to do something to your reader to make them feel good about your essay at the beginning, but thinking that every essay must have a hook because every essay has a hook is the wrong way to think about it. Think about much more, okay, what do I want to do to my audience here? Thesis, again, most people seem to have the opinion that every essay must have a thesis. I think it depends a lot on what thesis means. And I think the technical definition of a thesis is what you believe, right? So it's your opinion, it's setting out your argument. And in that case, not every essay needs to have a thesis, because you can have different kinds of essays. You can start with a kind of question, right? You can start with more of a purpose statement. If it's an essay where you're just explaining something, there's not very much belief in that. If you're just describing something, but you might have what we call a purpose statement, which might say, in this essay, I'm going to describe blah, blah, blah. But even then, a thesis, what you believe, or a question, something you're going to discuss, or a purpose, something you're going to do, they all tell the reader what's coming, so that's common. But there may even be essays or situations where you don't want to tell the reader what's coming, that you want to leave the reader, maybe in a narrative essay where you're actually telling a story with a surprising ending. You don't want to blow that in the thesis. So, you can see that, again, not everything needs a thesis. It very much depends on what you're doing. But again, in general, I'm definitely not saying definitely not saying write all your essays with no thesis. That would be ridiculous. But what I am trying to say, I think, again, is if you're trying to tell the reader something, it's best to sort of prepare them for it. And that's why a thesis statement or a purpose statement or a question is a good idea, because it lets the reader anticipate what's going to come, which makes the reading process much, much easier. If the reader knows what you're trying to do and you don't quite get it right, the reader will fill in the gaps. So it is a good thing. It is often a good thing, but as I say, sometimes you may not want to reveal so much. You might want to keep the reader surprised. Okay. With the 5 paragraphs thing, I think this is probably the worst one of the lot, and this is the one you definitely disagreed with. Yeah, absolutely not. Content drives everything in an essay. If you've got 4 good points to make in your argument, write 4 paragraphs. right? If you've got six, write six body paragraphs. You definitely, the key thing here, structure, should serve your ideas rather than your ideas fitting into a structure. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on and hopefully get through this. The second question was basically grammar is most important, and it's a very similar thing to the first. One, my question was deliberately very general, and grammar as a word, actually, I think, people use it to cover word choice, punctuation, spelling, all kinds of things. So it's actually pretty complex, right? Some grammar, and some of you saying, well, if we don't have good grammar, nobody can understand what we're talking about. But it's more complex than that. If you completely mangle the grammar of a complex sentence, it might well make it difficult to understand, and that's a real problem, right? But other things, I don't know, leaving S's off, getting punctuation slightly wrong, it can change the meaning, but sometimes it's just annoying, right? Usually a missed S on a third person verb doesn't make a whole lot of difference. But also, different real audiences are going to have different tolerances, particularly for the annoying grammar, right? English teachers tend to be more, in general, I think, tend to be more accepting of grammar mistakes because we know more about how hard it is for you to write perfectly. Some professors, and you'll get to know this, are super strict about grammar, right? And again, it's sort of about figuring it out. From a personal point of view as well, even different things. I do get slightly annoyed with particularly spelling errors because I think it shows a lack of care, especially because if you've got a decent word processor, grammar, and you can see here, Google is trying to tell me my grammar is wrong. I disagree. Spelling errors get underlined, right? And if you haven't bothered to, click on the red line, get the spelling correction, it even does it for you. That to me shows a real lack of care. But on the other hand, genuine grammar mistakes of something you didn't know and a grammar checker wouldn't catch, I know where you're coming from if English isn't your first language. I don't tend to mark it down too much. And again, the last thing I'll say about this is, again, content always precedes grammar. Someone said and I think actually I disagreed, and now I agree with them, that you can polish bad grammar, but you can't necessarily polish a bad idea. And if you keep one thing in mind for this class, it's say something cool, say something interesting, say something that you want to say, and don't let grammar get in the way of it. All right, the last one was kind of my start from the beginning and go smoothly to the end of an essay. You can see lots of no's there. And there is someone said in the answer, someone said, I think, systematic and perfect. I'm not sure I agree with that as a description of anybody's writing process. And essays, at least at the beginning, are probably not going to be systematic. There's definitely no such thing as perfect in an essay. There's always changes you could make that just do different things, right? But this question is very much about writing process. like how you get to your final piece. I think everyone's is a bit different. And you might be more of a, some people really like to plan their essays. Other people just kind of like to get started and then, see what's going right, see what's going wrong, and revise as they go along. Both of those are entirely acceptable. Doing both is great. And there's definitely no pressure to be linear, to start from a hook and go smoothly to the end of your conclusion. And I've recommended to students a lot, it's really hard to start an introduction. So don't get stuck on it. Start on your body paragraphs. The other thing with go smoothly, my suspicion is if you find that you've got an essay that just writes itself really, really easily, you seem to be able to go very smoothly from beginning to end, you're probably not saying anything good. And I think one of the big principles of writing is that you have to struggle and you have to suffer so that your reader doesn't have to. Because what you're doing in writing a lot of the time is you're doing thinking and you're doing research for your reader, right? You're kind of serving the reader. So the more effort that you put in, the more struggle that you put in, the better it's going to be to your reader, in at least hopefully. Right, I'm conscious of saying too much there, so I'm going to move on. But that's kind of how I was thinking about those questions, and I hope you keep some of those things in mind. I'm going to ask you to kind of reflect on this at the end of today's class. So try and sort of think here about, has anything changed in your mind about writing, having had that quick lecture? Okay, I'm going to move on. So for homework, I asked you to read 3 things using on Google Classroom. And the first was this overall project. So I'm just going to go back into that. And remember, it's on the classwork tab. And it's down here. And I just wanted to go through kind of a few key points about this. So hopefully you've read it. Excuse me. Hopefully you've read it already. I just want to kind of make a link back to what I've just talked about in the questions and this thing. So this is what we're really trying to get at in this class, is writing as a social practice, writing as considering your audience, considering what you're trying to do, considering the genre that you're writing in, and then thinking how you can best do that, right? So this course, I hope, is as much about thinking behind writing as doing the writing itself. Okay. And that's what we might call rhetoric. All right. Okay. So the overall project, I hope you've read this. So it's a single project. You're going to choose a topic, and then you're going to write 4 different essays about that topic. You'll move through different drafts of them. Let me come back and explain that then. So it might look like this. You're working on a topic and you're trying to build a portfolio of work, okay? And each thing kind of leads to the next, each of these 4 essays. So your introspective essay helps you to think about a topic that you're going to write about. A textual analysis, you're then going to do some reading in that topic and find an important source that you think says something important about the topic, and you're going to analyze why it's a good source, why it's a good argument, how it fits into like a big conversation about the topic. Okay. That's just looking at one source. Then when you do your research paper, you're going to kind of find a number of sources and put them all together to make your own argument about the topic. And then this last one, particularly those two in the middle, are very academic writing. But I also want to give you some experience of less academic writing, and writing for a particular audience. So the persuasive communication, you're going to take your topic and your research and try and communicate it to some kind of non-academic audience. So it may be writing to a politician, it might be, and you don't have to actually do this, it can be just pretend. It could be kind of writing an opinion piece for a newspaper that reaches the people you want. You could even do kind of social media posts or something, but something that gets outside of academia. Okay, so I hope that gives you some kind of idea. And each thing, so introspective helps you, I think I've said it right. Introspective helps you choose a topic. Textual analysis helps you think about good sources for that topic. The research paper asks you to make an argument using those sources. And then the persuasive communication helps you to kind of take what you've learned and communicate it to a different audience. So they all kind of lead to the next one. And then below that, in each essay, you're going to write 3 drafts for feedback. Okay, so there's 3 drafts that you'll get feedback on. Then you kind of stop with much feedback from me, but your final portfolio you submit at the end of the semester, you can basically keep working on any essays in your own time, up until the very point where you submit. Okay. Right. Coming back in here quickly. Topic choice. I think you've probably read it. But the one thing that I wanted to kind of say, make sure you're choosing a topic. Don't choose a thesis. Right? The idea is to investigate something you're interested in and find your way to a thesis. But that doesn't actually have to come until you get to the research paper. So, for example, I don't know, you may want to do something related to, I don't know, something like inequality or social mobility in society. It's enough just to get there at the moment. Okay, you don't have to say inequality is bad for society. You can just go with, I want to think about inequality. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to kind of stress here is this continual research thing. You'll do the best job you can if if this is always in the back of your mind, right? You're always trying to do a little bit of reading. You're always kind of, trying to think a little bit about it rather than just thinking about it when you're doing the assignments. Okay. Right. So I think that's the overall semester. I think that's the overview. The other thing that I need to say, I've turned on commenting for this assignment. I know you can't ask me questions directly here, but just like you did in the syllabus, you can highlight things in here and hit the comment button if you have a question. But I asked you to do the syllabus. I asked everyone to comment on the syllabus because it practices commenting and it makes you do it. But it's not an assignment this time. Just ask if you have a question. You don't need to do it. Okay, moving on. So you had two things to read for the introspective essay. The first one is the portfolio draft. I'm giving you this because, where did it go? As you can see on my thing, you need to know the overall project before you can start on the specific drafts. Okay, so this is the introspective. I give you the final thing first so you can see where you're headed, and then I'll give you a separate assessment, a separate assignment for each draft. So we'll start with the portfolio draft. This is where you're trying to end up. And you can see there, the date is the end of the semester, right? So this is just for informational purposes at the moment. Okay, but let's have a quick look. Again, comments are turned on for this document as well. Oops. So please, comments are turned on for this document too. So please feel free, the same, put any comments with questions on here and I'll get to them. So this is an introspective topic essay, and the purpose is kind of to help you to find out a good topic for you to write about. And introspective means looking in, right? So it's examining yourself. Okay. So read this. You've read this. I think a key phrase here is discovering or developing something about yourself. And I think that will be something I'm going to say very often this semester probably is discovery. And the kind of writing we're doing here, the composition, the non-examined type of writing, the non-exam type of writing that we talked about, is very much about discovery. Right, you're not expected to know what you're doing from the very beginning. It should be a process of finding things out. Okay, and the first thing we're sort of trying to find out is what could we write about? What can we get ourselves invested in? Okay, to help you with the rhetoric thing, I've tried to give you the purpose, the audience, and the genre. Okay, and the audience here is yourself, but it will be read by other people. Okay, so it can be very personal, but you do have to kind of consider readability. It's not like a journal where you can understand your own shorthand. People have got to understand what you're talking about, but you are writing to yourself here. Okay. And again, genre, I don't know. It is still an academic essay, so it should have an introduction and a conclusion and be in paragraphs. Okay. The other thing I will say, it's very possible to change your topic through the course. If you realize that you made a mistake, that's fine, and you won't have to come back and write a new introspective essay. Okay. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah. There's some questions here to help you. I just wanted to focus on this conversation thing. It's something we'll come back to a lot, but it's another word I'll use a lot. It will help you to think of pieces of writing as part of conversations, just like people talking, right? And there are big conversations in the world. Obviously, lots of current conversations are dominated by the coronavirus outbreak, and there are conversations like, has the government responded sufficiently and appropriately? And so lots of writing is contributing to that conversation. Some people are defending the government, some people are attacking the government, and and in general, things move in the world through conversation, and conversation takes place a lot through writing. I'll come back to that in quite a lot more detail later. Just requirements wise, I think, I wanted to point this out. So I've just talked in the introduction about thesis. This essay doesn't need a thesis. If you're not sure what you're doing at the beginning, you don't have to have a thesis. You can have a question or a purpose statement instead. Okay. And then grading wise, I just want to say pretty much all your essays, I'm trying to grade on a very simple, or not grade, sorry. Oh yes, grade, because this is your final essay. When I finally look at your essays, I try and grade on a very simple rubric, which basically says, it's basically content and then making it easy for the reader and then just taking care. Okay. Also, since you read that, I did add a line about requirements. Just all that means is, if you went outside the word count, you'd lose some points and things like that. Okay. Because I think, honestly, rubrics can get very complex and unnecessarily so, and it makes it difficult for you and me. So just think, are you learning good stuff about yourself? Have you made it easy to read? Have you taken care over it? Okay. Right. I think that's what I wanted to say so that's overall what you're doing, and you need to keep that in mind. But then there's a separate essay here for the first draft. Let me just show you around this. Again, this is Wednesday's class. So the deadline for the assignment is up there. This is due next week. So you've got a week to work on your introspective assignment. It is a first draft. My screen looks a bit different to yours. You have probably only got this document here. And then up here, there's a space for your work. And that will be that document, and it will have your name on it. In Google Classroom, everything's already shared with me, right? I can go and look at it. So please work in that document. Okay, just type your essay in there. And please remember to type in Google Docs. If you remember from the syllabus, that was an important thing. Your deadline is up there. When you're done, just hit submit. And what submit does is it basically takes away your editing privileges. So you can't you can't change it after the deadline. Okay. If you've got any questions about the assignment, as I said, you can write them on here, but you can also put them in there if you want to. Okay, let's have a look at the instructions. Okay. I think the thing that I really wanted to say about the first draft is kind of just to emphasize this, is a sort of first draft mindset. It's a really important stage in your essay. You want to make it as good as you can, right? But at the same time, you've sort of got to balance that with just producing something that you can work with later. Right? So don't get too hung up. Don't get too stuck. If you know you're writing something that's not good that you want to come back to later and improve, that's fine. Okay. But at the same time, just writing any 500 words with no effort and no thought will set you back in the writing process. You're probably then rewriting a new essay for your second draft. So try and strike a balance between, seriousness and effort, but also appreciating that things will go wrong and might not be perfect first time. The other thing with drafts is grading and feedback. I do grade it, and it's part of your process score. But for this first draft, this is all I'm looking for, really, is completing within the word limits, a bit of effort to structure it in coherent and unified paragraphs, which we'll talk about on Tuesday, and some evidence of fact inference structure, which we're just about to talk about. And notice, particularly with those, it's just you've tried, okay? It's not even were you successful. And then you can see I've lifted the grading thing from the overall project. I'll give you, with each draft, I'll give you some feedback on how strong I think your essay is overall. Obviously, that doesn't, it's feedback so you know how much you can work on it, right? Or how much you need to work on it. It's not a grade. Okay. Right. And then down here, you've got some help. There's links out there. Don't worry too much about MLA style. I don't think you'll need it in this essay, but if you do reference any other texts, you will need to do it in MLA style, and there's a bit of help on there. Okay, I think, yeah, that brings me to all I wanted to say about that. Okay, so, and you need to be working on your introspective first draft from today. So I'm going to move on. Maybe bring myself back here. Okay, so the next part, I'm afraid, is more of me talking. Do feel free to kind of take your time, space out the listening today. But this is a kind of separate lecture. I've separated it out so you can go back to it, and also because I might need to reuse it. So let me just introduce it quickly on here. The basic assignment is just to watch the lecture, but then take notes and upload them. Okay. And this lecture is hosted on what I've called the Resource Center, which is a Google site that I put together. There are other things on it, and we'll go and have a look around when we get there. It might be worth bookmarking. There is lots of help. I actually built it for last semester's 102 course, which I taught very differently. But there will be things, it's still supposed to be general writing help. So I'll link to it occasionally, and you're welcome to explore it. It may give you some extra help if you want to. Okay, so let's go into Classroom. And let's have a look. Again, I'm making a lectures section, and any lectures that I do give you, I will put in here. Okay. So here it is, Facts and Inferences lecture. And it takes you out. So this is the Resource Center page. Oh, I can't do my... But up here, there's a menu at the top that you can kind of click around in that will help you with different parts of writing. But for now, just focus on this page. It's really simple. It's just a page. It's got a YouTube video there. So watch that. Okay. You can also click out to a Google Drive folder, which has the slides, and I used an example in there, which is an example paragraph for your introspective essay. So that might well be useful as well. So to come back to the actual assignment, this is classwork. You got to watch the lecture. Okay. And as you're watching, please take notes. you can take them by hand, or you can use your computer or your phone or whatever. But please make sure they're in your own words. And obviously you can decide how many notes you take. If you are a note taker, take lots of notes. Bring myself back here, maybe. Take lots of notes. If you're not so much, just enough to show me that you watched it. Okay, so all the things I covered in there, and then afterwards, if I actually go into this assignment, sorry, here again, up here you'll have somewhere where you can add photos or Word documents or whatever. So wherever you did your notes, just upload them. Okay. And I'm not grading quality. I just want to see. It's basically my check that you did watch the lecture. Right. That's the lecture thing. And then the next thing and the final thing, and this is the piece of classwork that isn't listening, is to kind of help us with, let me bring myself back again, is to kind of help us with ideas. And it's a writing technique that you may find useful, and you may absolutely hate, but it's something that you could incorporate into your writing process if you wanted to. And it's often very, it's a pre-writing thing. This is not, its aim is to kind of help you generate ideas before you start to write a draft. And those ideas might even then be put into an essay plan or whatever. So it's usually used in very early stages, but you might also be able to use it if you kind of get writer's block or something. It might be a good way to get around that. So the basic technique for free writing is this. It's basically set a timer for a set amount of time, and then you literally just write, and you don't stop for any reason. Okay, you don't worry about grammar, spelling, structure, anything like that. If you haven't got any ideas, write, I have no idea, and keep writing it, but don't stop talking. And obviously you're talking very much to yourself, so you can ask yourself questions, you can write your hesitations in. So here was a very quick example of something. I was thinking about conversations that were happening, in terms of what I could write about. And you can see, so, I just started by asking myself the question. I've got hesitations in there, spelling errors, grammar problems. This is what I mean. I had no ideas, so I wrote no ideas are coming. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay. So there is. When you do this, you're going to do this as an assignment. I'm definitely not grading quality. Okay. All right. So what you've got to do, I'll go into Classroom and show you exactly what's happening in a minute. You're to complete 2 free writing classes on Classroom, 5 minutes each. All right. And you've also the idea of free writing is you do this for 5 minutes and then you sit down and you look at it and you say, okay, did I get, is there anything that came out of this that I can now use in my draft or think about? There's also a few other things. If you find you like free writing and it's useful, I'm not going to make you do these, but there's a technique that's related to free writing called looping, which is when you free write, you find an idea that if you generate something useful, you then use that as the next prompt for a free writing, for another 5 minutes of free writing. And then if you got something useful out of that next free writing, you use that as the prompt for the next one. And you kind of, I guess, focus in on ideas a bit more, focus in on topics. So that is looping. And if you like doing this, you must do 2 on Google Classroom, which I'm going to show you in just a second. But you could also do more just on your own. That's kind of the question I answered in the example. And there's another couple of examples there. Okay, so let's go have a look at Google Classroom. On the classwork page, well, in fact, let's just confirm. It's in the they're in the stream. There's the 2 free writing questions here. Actually, yeah, let's just look at them on here. They're also under the classwork tab. So all you've got to do, this is the first question. What issues tend to provoke emotional reactions from you? Okay, so have you been watching the news and felt guilty or sad or despondent or angry? Do things happen at school that make you feel angry? I suppose try and stay out of the personal there. It's more like, what's happening at school, that what sort of decisions do the school make that might upset you. Anything in your, even if you have emotional reactions to anything you've read or anything in your major, you're looking for kind of a sort of social issue topic. Okay. And all you've got to do, like I said, hope you can see that, okay, is write for 5 minutes without stopping. Okay. And then when you finish, write a very quick reply to yourself, just noting any thoughts. Okay. So you should have, a very messy answer to the question, and then a reply to yourself. This time you'll be able to see other students' work, and you can have a look. But you don't need to reply to other students this time. Okay. One other thing, when you're doing it, again, I'm really sorry that I can't show you your screens, but the place you should answer the question is on the right. Okay. This class comments section, where some people mistakenly put it, that's for if you have a question for me about the assignment. Okay. So please make sure your answers go up there. And again, it's a very small thing to write your answer, particularly for the questions, I think. So if you want to write it in a word processor and then copy and paste in, I'm very happy for you to do that. Okay, so there are your free writing things. And that brings us pretty much to the end. So everyone's deadlines are different, so please just see Classroom for there. Remember that you've got upcoming assignments there. If you view all, you can see everything you need to do with its deadline. Okay. Let's get a few of those. The last, and then the other assignment, so this is these reflections that I mentioned on the syllabus. They start today, and you basically get a week to do them. And I have created somewhere a reflections section on the classwork tab. So let's get at this one through there. They'll be in the form of questions each time. And what I'm looking for, you can blow that up a little bit. We've talked a lot about writing and rhetoric and your conceptions, and I wonder if it's changed your mind. Okay, that's the basic reflection. Is have you changed at all after this first week? And there's some extra questions to help you. And you're really looking to create some useful knowledge. I think that's why you reflect, is you look at what you've done, what you've heard, and then try and think, what did I learn and how can that be useful in future? So that's what you're trying to do. The instructions are, it's 200 to 400 words. Okay, and we're looking for real specifics and details. Okay. You don't have to worry about tone, structure, or grammar too much past being understandable. I'm looking for just your thinking here. It's not very formal or polished writing, but I have to be able to read it. And then grading wise, as long as you do it, you'll get 70 points. Okay, if you do it and hit the 200 lower word limit, you'll get it. And then 80 points is for some useful insights, but feels a bit weak. 90 is for, really good. And then 100 is great. And just bear in mind, I'd love to be able to provide lots of feedback to you on this, but I'm going to be fully engaged feeding back on your actual essays and getting you through the portfolio assignment. If you're really struggling with reflections, please ask me for feedback or advice. But if you're doing well, just use that grading scale to kind of see what you've got to do. Okay. Right, and that I think that brings me to the end of this very long video for today. I hope that will get better in future. Like I said, there's a lot to share today. But that is it. I hope you do okay with the assignments today. Please remember, I'll be on email and Hangouts and things to help you. Yeah. All right. Good luck and goodbye.